On September 20th, 2020, a father decided to pull out his camera and film his two boys during a fun moment at home. The pair were locked in a playful wrestling match, each one giving it everything they had to come out on top. It was a pretty even contest. Neither boy seemed to have the upper hand. That is, until one of them suddenly lost focus. It's hard to say exactly what grabbed his attention, but whatever it was had him completely zoned out. His distraction cost him, as his brother wasted no time taking advantage and sealing the win. The dad had the whole thing on film, but along with the wrestling match, something else ended up in the footage. Something that neither parent could make sense of. Going back through the recording, the father spotted something that stopped him cold.
A ver. Eso pa' eso, Eso pa' eso.
Noticing that his son was locked onto something off to the side, the dad swung the camera in that direction, though he himself couldn't make out what was so fascinating, whether he simply missed it in the moment or it wasn't visible to the naked eye. The lens caught it anyway. There, inside the closet, a face appears, motionless, like something ripped straight out of a bad dream, seemingly staring directly into the camera. It just lingers in that corner, without so much as a twitch. But the moment the father briefly looks away and brings the camera back to the same spot, it's completely gone. Despite the footage being recorded back in 2020, no follow-up information has ever surfaced. Then again, no explanation is really necessary to make this clip feel deeply unsettling. Even without any updates, people who've seen it keep coming back with theories about what exactly was lurking inside that wardrobe. A woman was going back through security footage of herself and her boyfriend, enjoying a late-night swim in their pool. At first glance, everything seems completely fine. They're laughing, splashing around, clearly just having a good time. But then, in a single frame, something occurs that simply defies explanation. As her boyfriend reaches out, his arm appears to extend far beyond any human anatomical limit. It's not motion blur from a quick movement, and it's not a slow, gradual distortion either. Stories like this are nothing new. Across countless folklore traditions from around the world, there are beings said to mimic human appearance almost flawlessly, except for fleeting moments when something feels deeply wrong. In Middle Eastern mythology, jinn are frequently described as shapeshifters, capable of assuming human form, yet occasionally failing to hold that disguise together completely. In Native American tradition, skinwalkers are believed to impersonate people while letting slip subtle, inhuman details when caught off guard. Other cultures have their own versions: doppelgangers, imposters, creatures whose physical form momentarily gives away what they truly are. So is this just a simple camera glitch? Or is it one of those rare, unsettling instances where something ancient, something people were describing in stories long before video ever existed, briefly slips into view? On April 16, 2016, a mother posted surveillance footage recorded outside her house, walking viewers through the unsettling events of that evening. She explained that her son was startled by a series of loud sounds and went outside to investigate. The moment he stepped out, he spotted a motorcyclist tearing away from right in front of their property. It turned out a robbery had occurred in the neighborhood that very night, and the bikers were the ones behind it. But when the second motorcycle peeled off down the road, the camera captured something that's genuinely hard to explain. Without warning, a deeply unsettling figure materialized and appears to sprint after the fleeing biker before dissolving completely into the night. You can clearly see the woman's son react with sheer panic and bolt back into the house. According to the description posted with the video, the mother noted that nothing remotely like this had ever occurred in their community before. Nobody could account for where that figure came from, and nobody could explain where it went. It had the shape of a person, but its origin and its disappearance remain a total mystery. So what do you think it was? In our next clip, a woman by the name of Kenzie was scrolling through her photo gallery when she stumbled upon a completely black video that had been sitting on her phone for 2 years. One she had absolutely no memory of recording. She decided to crank up the brightness, and what she saw sent a chill straight through her. See for yourself. A tall, shadowy figure resembling a tomb dog can be spotted standing right in the doorway of her bedroom. Kenzie says she always sleeps with that door shut, so she has no idea why it was open. The dark silhouette appeared to be facing in her direction and was slowly inching closer. What makes this even more unsettling is that she has zero recollection of filming anything that night, let alone pointing her camera at a pitch-black room for no apparent reason. The figure bears a striking resemblance to what many people describe as the Hat Man, an entity commonly reported during episodes of sleep paralysis. So the question remains, what exactly did Kenzie's phone capture that night? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let me know what you... This one involves a clown doll I actually covered on the channel previously. A man named Jacob inherited a rundown, eerie old house from his late grandmother, and inside it were several unsettling dolls. One of them stood out above the rest, a clown doll by the name of Jeffrey, which had been positioned directly facing Jacob's bed. Strange things began happening around the house, and Jacob had every reason to suspect Jeffrey was behind it, so he relocated the doll to a separate room.
What's going on with the creepy puppet? I'm Jeffrey, and I just want to let you guys know what we've done. So after the last video, I just wasn't comfortable with him in the same room as me, so I've placed him somewhere else. As you can see, move him to this room. It's pretty empty. I just want him in a separate room from me, and I don't want to feel like someone's watching me, you know? Anyways, that's what's going on with Jeffrey.
The move seemed to bring some peace for a couple of nights, but then around midnight, Jacob is jolted awake by a series of loud banging sounds echoing through the house. He suspects they're coming from wherever Jeffrey is, so he drags himself out of bed to go investigate. What he found stopped him cold.
I just heard banging.
As Jacob pushes open the door to the room the banging was coming from, Jeffrey is visible, facing toward the front of the room. Then a sudden noise erupts from somewhere downstairs, followed by what sounds unmistakably like footsteps climbing the staircase. Jacob goes to check, but there's not a soul in sight. He turns away for only a matter of seconds, and when he looks back, the doll has rotated to face him directly. Shaken to his core, Jacob decides this time to move Jeffrey all the way down to the basement.
Guys, this is the result so far. I'm gonna leave him here for now, but I think I'm gonna put a camera here. Jeffrey's still here, so we're gonna see.
Determined not to be caught off guard again, he sets up a camera to keep a close eye on the doll. It doesn't take long before his phone buzzes with a motion detection alert, sending a wave of dread through him. But once he actually reviewed the footage, his fear went to a whole other level. See for yourself what the camera picked up. As the footage plays out, Jeffrey's arm shifts on its own without any explanation, and moments later the light bulb suddenly blows, plunging the entire basement into pitch darkness. Then, cutting through the silence, a strange, muffled voice can be heard whispering something indistinct. Since all of this unfolded, the doll has stayed locked away in that basement, and something tells me that's exactly where it's going to stay. This next clip was posted to TikTok by a woman named Ali, who calls the Appalachian Mountains home, a region with a long reputation for strange encounters and unsettling legends. If you know anything about living out there, you've probably heard the unspoken rule locals follow. When the sun goes down, you shut your doors and pull your curtains closed. One evening, Ali forgot to do exactly that, and what followed will make your skin crawl.
Did y'all see anything? Let me know. No, stop, because I swear, as soon as I stopped recording, I heard something tapping on the window. Just kidding, I'm not looking out there. I know y'all hear that. What the fuck?
Okay, and now I've came to the back door, and it is wide open. What the? Hell no. Look, y'all. It was
As she moves to draw the curtains shut, you can clearly make out an eerie growling noise coming from somewhere outside. She later described also hearing a tapping sound against the window, almost like something was deliberately trying to draw her attention. And if that wasn't unsettling enough, when she went to check on the back door, she discovered it was hanging wide open, despite being certain she had closed it before. The video doesn't escalate beyond that, but the encounter alone was more than enough to leave Ali thoroughly rattled. Given everything that's been said and warned about the Appalachian Mountains over the years, it really does make you stop and wonder what exactly was lurking out there that night. So where do you stand on this one? Drop your thoughts down in the comments below. Late one night, while the rest of the household was sound asleep, a motion-detecting camera kicked on and began recording automatically. When she reviewed the footage the following morning, an icy feeling crept over her entire body. And it's not hard to understand why. Something was caught moving through the living room. Just off to the side of the frame, a translucent figure drifted past the dining area and descended toward a staircase. It didn't stop. A ghostly streak appeared to trail behind it as it moved. According to what was reported, Nobody else was supposed to be up and walking around the house at that hour. The place was completely still. At least, it was supposed to be. So whatever that presence was, it passed right through the home and vanished into the unknown. Our next story comes from a mother named V. Shaney, whose family home has gone from a place of comfort to a source of genuine dread. Unexplained things keep happening throughout the house. Cabinets swinging open by themselves, her kids reporting strange sightings in the middle of the night, and disturbing incidents centered around the baby's room in particular. Of all the family members, it's the youngest who appears to be at the heart of it. What's coming up is just one moment in a long string of events that have shaken this family to its core. The footage captures a deeply unsettling scene in which a toy inside the dollhouse appears to lift slightly off the ground before launching into the air. On a separate occasion, a different camera recorded a chair sliding across the floor entirely on its own, only adding to the growing list of bizarre incidents. Vi also described watching a toy get dragged out from beneath the baby's crib by no visible force. Even after taking steps to try to keep her children safe, the activity shows no sign of stopping, leaving her, and everyone who watches, wondering just how much is going on that the cameras aren't catching. Guy who goes by Beer Dude, someone we've actually featured on this channel in the past, began noticing some unusual noises coming from inside his garage. He grabbed his phone and started filming to document whatever was going on. Here's what the camera picked up. You can clearly make out the sound of footsteps, and when he swings the door open, there's not a soul in sight. But the story doesn't stop there. Not long after, a mop standing right behind him topples over with no one near it, and what unfolds toward the end of the footage is even harder to explain. See for yourself. Out of nowhere, a small ball shifts on its own, as if something unseen either nudged it or let it drop from above, yet absolutely nothing is visible up in the attic space. That's where the footage cuts off. If you were the one standing there in his shoes, what would you have done? While social media user Vats Biker was making his way through the nighttime streets of Delhi, the camera mounted on his helmet picked up something unusual as his motorcycle passed under a streetlight. A second shadow abruptly showed up behind him, despite the fact that he was completely alone on that ride. Some viewers believe the footage may have unintentionally caught some kind of mysterious presence. Others, though, are convinced the whole thing can be explained by street lighting, the angle of the light source, or overlapping shadows producing a misleading visual effect. What's your take on this? Drop your thoughts down in the comments. A security camera inside a garage recorded something at 5:43 in the morning that has had a lot of people scratching their heads. Pay close attention to the toy car sitting on the floor. That toy car started moving entirely on its own, as though an invisible hand had given it a push. The strange part is that the batteries had already been taken out of the vehicle and were sitting on a nearby workbench charging at the time. Once the clip made it online, it spread rapidly across the internet. Can you come up with an explanation for what happened here? Let us know in the comments. I'd genuinely love to hear what you think. Waking up to strange sounds in the dead of night is unsettling enough on its own. But picture this. You hear your own voice drifting in from another room. That's exactly what one woman experienced when she recognized her own voice echoing out of her kitchen. Her husband wasted no time grabbing his camera and heading in to investigate. See for yourself what the footage reveals.
Yeah, it does locked. You just opened it.
Oh my god. Getting horrendous.
This is getting horrendous. Look at it. It's smashed on top of there as well.
The kitchen is an absolute disaster. Shards of glass scattered across the floor, objects flung in every direction, and 2 cabinet doors hanging wide open. Then out of nowhere, those cabinet doors slam shut by themselves. There's no visible explanation for what could have caused it, and just when it couldn't get any more unsettling, a chilling scream tears through the house, one that neither of them made. The couple was left completely shaken, and they've since gone on record saying they're now in the market for a... 10 years ago, a mother snapped a photo of her children playing in her bedroom. It seemed like it would be nothing more than a sweet family moment. But when she went back and looked at the image later, something in the background caught her eye. She says she noticed nothing out of the ordinary when she took the shot, but when she showed the photo to her kids, they grinned and told her that was their friend. So what exactly are we looking at? There at the foot of the bed, you can make out what appears to be the silhouette of a person, just a short distance from where the children are playing. The woman passed the photo along to her niece, who then posted it on Facebook in hopes that someone might be able to make sense of what everyone was seeing. According to the niece, her young cousins had frequently mentioned a little girl they liked to play with. The family had always figured she was imaginary, the kind of made-up companion that plenty of kids invent. What unsettled them, though, was the sheer amount of detail the children offered when describing her. That level of specificity just isn't typical for young kids, particularly when they're talking about something that supposedly only lives in their heads. So the question that nobody can quite shake is this: is this girl a product of their imagination, or did the camera actually capture her that day? And if she is real, in some sense, is she a harmless presence, or something darker that has latched itself onto this family? Sometimes the most unsettling discoveries are the ones lurking inside places that were never meant to be revisited. A content creator named Xiaolong who runs the YouTube channel Ororai Xiaolong, made the decision to venture inside a derelict funeral home located in Qingdao, China. Locals claim the building is haunted by restless souls who never moved on. He had absolutely no clue what was waiting for him. Just outside the entrance, he spots an old, battered hearse sitting in a state of decay. That's the moment things start getting deeply unsettling. Without warning, the hearse's rear door swings open on its own, as though pushed by something that can't be seen. Clearly shaken, Xiaolong nevertheless decides to press on and steps inside the funeral home.
哎呦我操你妈呀！我去你妈的！我操！他妈的，这是放尸体了！我操！我操！这里！我操！
In that instant, you can tell he's starting to wonder whether coming here was a serious error in judgment. His live stream audience urges him to push forward regardless. Hoping for some protection, he pulls out a spiritual amulet said to ward off dark entities, but nothing could have prepared anyone for what follows.
操你妈！
A small, ghostly, pale face emerges through a ceiling hatch directly overhead, slowly rising into view before retreating back into the shadows above. Could this be one of the tormented spirits rumored to inhabit this forsaken place? Some mysteries, it seems, are better off left well alone. He was recording the structure when something chilling came into frame. On February 22, 2019, Colombian authorities brought down the former residence of Pablo Escobar. As the demolition unfolded, numerous onlookers reported spotting a semi-transparent figure darting through the building at an impossible speed. One man who happened to be filming the scene unknowingly caught that figure on video. Here's what his camera recorded. On one of the building's balconies, a white, translucent shape materialized and shot across the frame at a remarkable pace, almost as though it was desperately trying to get out before the structure came down. This footage has earned a reputation as one of the most convincing captures of an unexplained phenomenon, and that's largely because the man with the camera wasn't alone in what he witnessed. Multiple other bystanders independently reported seeing the very same figure moving through the building during the demolition. But ultimately, the verdict is in your hands. Let us know what you think is going on. Indonesia, a woman who goes by the name Marlena claims to live in an apartment where, over the course of several nights, she kept hearing unsettling sounds coming from the balcony of the unit next door. She says the noises would typically start during the early morning hours and seemed to be drawing nearer with each passing night, leaving her feeling more and more uneasy. Determined to get to the bottom of it, Marlena pulled out her phone and began secretly filming the neighboring balcony, hoping to find some kind of logical explanation. What her camera picked up, however, left a lot of viewers deeply disturbed. As she quietly points her phone toward the area, a mysterious figure slowly becomes visible, creeping out from behind the balcony wall. What makes it truly chilling is the look of its face. The figure appears to have strikingly pale, almost ghostly features, an image unsettling enough to send Marlena into an immediate panic and cause her to stop filming altogether. Following the experience, she became firmly convinced that whoever, or whatever, was residing in the neighboring unit was not entirely of this world. But what's your take? Could it have simply been someone lurking in the shadows, watching her? Or did Marlena genuinely manage to capture something that defies all rational explanation? That same month, a young boy in Singapore's UT district was recording a video on his commute to school, wanting to show his relatives the town's newly opened water park. When he dropped the footage into the family group chat, though, his uncle Dennis noticed something that didn't quite add up. As the boy jogged along the pavement, he inadvertently caught on film what appears to be the figure of a man with no head, just standing there calmly on the side of the road. The boy's uncle then passed the clip along to the YouTube channel Supernatural Confessions, and it didn't take long before the video spread across the internet. So, what exactly are we looking at here? The couple owns and operates what is considered one of the most haunted hotels anywhere in the country. Over the years, they've put together a collection of security footage, recordings made by guests, eerie photographs, and old newspaper clippings, all tied to unexplained activity within the building's walls. Some of it could probably be explained away, but other moments are a lot harder to dismiss. In this first clip, a hallway camera catches one of the owners strolling past a closed door, and everything seems perfectly ordinary at first glance.
Red rope. Nothing was there.
Then your eyes land on the rope dangling from the door handle, and with no one anywhere near it, that rope starts swinging on its own. The hallway is deserted, the door remains shut, and there is simply no obvious reason for it to be moving at that time of night. On November 24th, 2020, a TikTok page called Black Hills Paranormal uploaded a piece of home security footage recorded in the dead of night, inside what appears to be a completely unremarkable house. The moments pass in silence while the household sleeps soundly. Everything about it looks routine and uneventful, until suddenly, the atmosphere of the clip shifts completely. At a certain point, a strange reflection materializes across the surface of the kitchen refrigerator. Then, barely a second later, what appears to be a shadowy, ghost-like figure moves through the space before disappearing off-screen. Sadly, no follow-up information ever seems to have been posted about what came next. And honestly, if I were the one living there, and my camera caught something like that, I'd be calling a real estate agent pretty quickly. What gets under a lot of viewers' skin is the sequence in which things unfold. The reflection shows up first, almost as if something is announcing its presence, and then a figure passes right through the room immediately after. There are those who believe this could be a spirit briefly interacting with reflective surfaces before becoming more fully visible. Others aren't so convinced, pointing to more grounded explanations. Car headlights sweeping past, shifting shadows, or sudden changes in ambient lighting can sometimes produce strange distortions on shiny surfaces, like a fridge door. Throw in the grainy, low-light processing of a security camera, and you've got a recipe for what looks like a moving figure when nothing paranormal is actually going on. Even so, watching something like this play out while an entire household lies sleeping is enough to send a chill down your spine. And with no further details available, it's difficult not to wonder just what else that camera might have recorded. Deep in an isolated stretch of mountains known as Mazamitla, wooden vacation cabins sit nestled among the trees, the kind of setting that feels serene right up until darkness falls. One night, at around 4 in the morning, a man staying in one of those cabins was snapped awake by heavy pounding coming from just outside his door. He stayed still, listening. Then something inside the room activated on its own. Nothing was near it. No one had touched it. No remote involved. It simply switched on in the dead of night. And that's just where this story starts. The very next evening, something out in the forest began to shriek. Not a wild animal, but a woman, loud enough that the sound carried across the whole valley. According to locals, a woman passed away alone in a nearby cabin some years back, under circumstances that were never properly explained, and some residents insist she never really left. They say she's still out there among the trees, still keeping watch, and they claim she's actually been captured on video. Right there, just behind that trunk, a pale face, visible for a moment, vanishing, then sliding back into view, staring. And this isn't an isolated event. It keeps happening at Mazamitla. The pounding, the wailing, the face among the branches. Visitors return again and again with new footage, and whatever is lurking out in those woods keeps. Paranormal investigation crew from the YouTube channel Darkgate Area set out on a late-night visit to a secluded graveyard with a deeply unsettling history. The site is so notorious that even local residents refuse to go near it once the sun goes down. Armed with little more than minimal lighting, the team moved through the grounds convinced they were completely alone out there. But when they went back and reviewed their footage, they discovered that something else had been present with them right from the start.
محمد به خدا یه چیزی دیدم. به خدا یه چیزی سرک کشید محمد پشت.
Had they caught on to what was lurking behind them in those early moments, there's little doubt the whole investigation would have been called off on the spot. Instead, they pressed on, until one team member wandered dangerously close to a cliff's edge, almost as though some unseen force was responding to their intrusion.
محمد بغلت محمد به خدا بغلت بود.
As the night wore on, the person behind the camera started picking up a strange light anomaly, weaving unpredictably around his colleague. It seemed to orbit him, gradually drawing closer, as though it were sizing them up and biding its time before making a move. When the group stepped inside an old structure sitting within the cemetery grounds, the whole energy shifted. The space no longer felt vacant, it felt inhabited, and unusual activity began manifesting around them almost immediately. Whatever was lurking in that building wasn't content with simply being glimpsed on camera. It made itself known through sheer presence alone. That's what pushed the experience into genuinely terrifying territory, because the dread was no longer theoretical. Something was already right there beside them. In the following video, a group of friends were doing a paranormal investigation at a friend's apartment. Not a professional setup, just a few people taking the activity seriously enough to film. When one of them, alone downstairs in the kitchen, nothing about pointed their phone toward the staircase. Everyone else was upstairs. Folding tables. The hallway at the bottom of those stairs was dark. The kind of dark where your eyes start filling in shapes, a lamp whether you want them to or not. According to the narrator, nobody else was one is in the room. Watch.
Me and my friends were doing a paranormal investigation at another friend's apartment. Everyone was upstairs, and I was downstairs in the kitchen filming and taking pictures. My friend was the one that captured this, and to this day we still don't know who this is.
What gets pointed out is a dark, elongated shape pressed against the wall at the bottom of the stairs, blurry and indistinct, but vaguely humanoid, with what could be a rounded head and the suggestion of shoulders. If you focus on the zoomed-in still, the shape doesn't look like a shadow cast by anything obvious in the frame. Some viewers think it's a classic case of pareidolia, the brain finding a face or a figure in grainy, low-light footage. Others aren't so quick to dismiss it, pointing out how the shape holds a consistent form even as the camera zooms. Either way, the narrator says they still don't know what or who was standing there. The following clip was reportedly discovered on a camera found in a dense stretch of Scottish woodland at dusk, with no indication of who left it there or why. Two mountain bikers are riding through the dim, shadowy forest. One in dark clothing with a blue helmet and a backpack leading the way, the camera mounted on whoever is riding behind him. The trail looks ordinary enough, just a rough dirt path cutting between tall, thin trees. Then the lead rider suddenly stops his bike, swinging it sharply to the left, and looks back over his shoulder directly at the camera, not with panic, but with that quiet, uncertain expression that's somehow worse. Watch. The camera is thrown violently downward at a speed far too fast for a normal fall, and at that exact moment, a high-pitched, unnatural shriek cuts through the audio. Not mechanical, not human. The footage tumbles across the forest floor before the final frame fills completely with a strange white, fibrous substance, stringy and matted, like nothing you'd expect to find in any woodland. The identities of both riders remain unknown. Whether someone found the camera before watching this, or after, that's the part that's hard to stop thinking about. Now in this next clip, a woman in Gothenburg, Sweden, was walking through the woods at night, filming herself for her Instagram page while taking a shortcut through a dark, tree-lined path. She's talking casually the whole way through, footsteps crunching on dry leaves, completely unaware that anything unusual is happening around her. It wasn't until she posted the video and her followers started flooding her comments that she went back and looked again. Watch.
Voided of blood or anything, and there seems to be black hair. Now, what I want to say is that if you go over to her channel where there's a link in, she's trying to make sense of what she saw. Now, she's also saying that she doesn't believe that it's paranormal because she doesn't believe in the paranormal. But she's kind of saying that she hopes it's an animal. Yes, hopes it's an animal. My point on this is she was making a lot of noise because she was talking. You can hear her stomping through the woods. Now, animals, they tend to do two things. They either hide or run. Now, there was two of them. Now, one's sitting by the tree down on the ground. Now, we can class that as an animal, but the thing that poked its head around, now that seemed to be kind of humanoid. And it wasn't running. It didn't seem scared. It seemed like it was having a look. But guys, what do you think about this video? So, as always, stay blessed and keep safe.
At roughly the 45-second mark, a pale, humanoid face with dark hair peers out from behind a thick tree just off her path, staying there for a brief moment before pulling back out of frame. Then, as the camera drifts downward, two small bright points of reflective light appear near the base of that same tree, low to the ground, like eyeshine. She never reacted, never looked in that direction, because she had no idea it was there. Some viewers think those two separate details, the face high up on the tree and the eye shine near the ground, suggest there were actually two things out there with her that night, not one. The face is harder to dismiss as an animal, given how it appears to be upright and peering deliberately around the tree rather than fleeing from the noise she was making. The woman herself has said she doesn't believe in the paranormal and hopes there's a rational explanation. Swedish folklore, for what it's worth, has long described forest-dwelling spirits that observe from a distance, watching, but rarely approaching. Whether that's relevant here or not is something you'll have to decide for yourself. Now in this next clip, a Ring security camera mounted outside a home picked up something strange at just after 2 in the morning on July the 2nd of 2020. One of those hours when nothing should be moving and nobody should be awake. The camera was pointed at a small collection of porch decorations, completely still, completely unremarkable. Then right at the start of the recording, the thin metal stake on one of the flower decorations nudges slightly, as if something brushed against it. Watch. A bright figure moves from left to right in under a second, overexposed by the infrared light so completely that its shape is impossible to make out. Skeptics point to insects flying close to the lens as a common explanation for exactly this kind of flare on IR cameras, and honestly, that's a reasonable first instinct. But not everyone sees an insect. Some viewers believe the shape resembles an elderly woman moving across the property. That interpretation naturally led to discussions about crisis apparitions and wandering spirits, stories found in folklore across many cultures involving elderly figures appearing briefly near homes, pathways, and gardens before disappearing without a trace. Until more updates are shared, this remains unsolved. The following videos all come from the same French-speaking household, a home that, according to the man filming, has been experiencing a steady and escalating pattern of paranormal activity centered primarily around doors, interior spaces, and whatever seems to be living behind them. In the first clip, it's nighttime, and he's settled in what appears to be an attic-style bedroom with pinkish-purple walls and a television casting a blue glow across the room. He's sitting on the bed when the closed white door at the far end of the room begins to swing open slowly and completely on its own, revealing only darkness on the other side. He mutters in French, "There's a spirit in the house," and gets up to investigate. Watch.
Il y a un esprit dans le bac. Je vais voir. Amène-toi!
Some viewers immediately pointed to a poltergeist-type intelligence, an entity that doesn't just move objects passively, but actively responds to proximity, almost as if it was baiting him to come closer. In the second clip, filmed in the same house on what appears to be another night, he's walking through the living room with his phone when he mentions on camera that paranormal activity is happening again. A children's toy, a small zebra, had just lit up on its own. The dogs in the house are already unsettled. Then, without warning, a violent metallic rattling erupts from an interior door, the kind of sound you'd hear if someone on the other side was aggressively shaking the handle. Listen closely.
Alors je filme parce qu'il y a encore des phénomènes paranormaux.
Il y a le petit jouet là-bas qui s'allumait, là. Petit zèbre. C'est quoi de ça? Y'a quelqu'un? Hallucinant.
Both dogs bolt toward the door the moment he opens it, running into the kitchen and sniffing frantically near the entry point. He checks the room and finds no one. The dog's behavior here is worth paying attention to. Animals, particularly dogs, are widely believed across numerous cultural traditions to perceive presences that humans can't, and both of them move toward the disturbance rather than away from it, which is unusual. Skeptics would argue a loose latch or a draft could produce that kind of rattling, but the force and consistency of the sound makes that explanation difficult to hold on to. The third clip appears to be from the same house, the same purplish bedroom walls, the same wooden staircase, and this time the filming is first person, entirely handheld, as the person gets out of bed in the middle of the night after hearing a dog barking aggressively from downstairs. They walk barefoot down the hallway and descend the stairs, stopping at a white baby gate to peer down into the dark living room below. Watch closely. What do you do when you hear disturbances in your house, but don't see any cause? Well, for this man, locking himself in the room was the only thing that came to mind. In the fourth clip, he's back in the living room, filming his two dogs, a black dog and a merle-colored dog, and both of them are standing rigid and locked onto a closed interior door, staring at the handle. He explains on camera that the activity keeps centering around that door handle and that directly beneath the kitchen, on the other side, sits a cellar. He says he doesn't know what's happening, but it's concentrated in the living room and the kitchen. Then a single loud bang erupts. Watch.
Je sais pas si je l'ai tourné en vidéo, mais depuis tout à l'heure en fait, ça recommence. C'est toujours sur la poignée de la porte. Je sais pas ce qui se passe ici, mais ça se concentre en fait dans le salon, plus dans la cuisine. Faut savoir, c'est ce qu'il y a une cave en dessous de la cuisine en fait. Ça pourrait... Putain, ça pourrait peut-être venir là. C'est quoi ce bordel là?
The dogs rush into the kitchen while he pans the room looking for a source. He checks a second door at the back of the kitchen that leads to a small pantry or utility space, finds nothing out of place, and ends the clip with, "I don't know. I'll keep you posted." That cellar detail is the thing I keep coming back to. Across all 4 clips, the activity is consistently pulling toward the same areas: the doors, the handle, the space just beyond what's visible. Whatever is happening in this house, it seems to know exactly where the thresholds are. So what do you think is behind that door? The following video was recorded by paranormal investigator Frank, the creator behind Franco TV, a channel widely known for his solo overnight explorations of abandoned locations most people refuse to enter, places with violent histories, forgotten tragedies, and reports so disturbing that even experienced investigators often avoid returning alone. Yet Frank has built his reputation on confronting these places directly, documenting whatever might still be lingering in the darkness. This time, he returns to a monastery he had investigated once before, a place long surrounded by unsettling rumors, where locals claim former monks practiced rituals that went far beyond prayer, and where some believe certain areas were permanently sealed off after unexplained incidents involving members of the clergy who reportedly began hearing voices, seeing figures, and behaving in ways no one could explain. And ever since its abandonment, people who pass near the structure at night have reported the overwhelming feeling of being watched, as if something inside never truly left. Just seconds after arriving, Frank immediately captures something deeply unsettling. Watch.
This is where I was seeing things coming out of here. I just got a sound. That's where my car is. Oh. I just heard something over here. I feel so vulnerable right now. Oh God, it is so cold. The next time I come out here again, I'm gonna have to layer up.
In the darkness, what appears to be a pair of eyes reflects, like something was watching him. And even when he went into the monastery to escape whoever or whatever was watching him, something else happened.
What the hell is that? Oh my God. It's like right there. It's coming from inside here. For sure, it's definitely coming in here. Hola? I have to ask. What if there's somebody in here? The chair's still there in the middle.
Heavy bangs like footsteps carrying weight, the kind of sound that suggests something solid, something physical, moving somewhere, just out of sight. And as Frank searches the area, expecting to find a person, an animal, or at least some logical explanation, he finds nothing. Some believe this could be residual energy, the kind said to replay past movements in places where intense emotional or spiritual events occurred repeatedly over time, while others believe this is something far more aware, something intelligent, something that recognized his presence the moment he arrived and chose not to remain hidden. Because in locations like this, investigators often say the most terrifying moments aren't when you see something clearly. It's when you hear something that should not be there and realize it knows exactly where you are. This next video was recorded during a paranormal investigation in a small town in Jalisco, Mexico, at an old hacienda currently undergoing renovation, a property that, according to locals, carries a history far darker than its crumbling walls suggest, with rumors stretching back generations about buried money hidden somewhere on the land, valuables supposedly concealed during times of conflict, and even more disturbing claims that human remains were discovered on the property years ago. though no one seems to agree on how they got there or who they belong to. One local resident who grew up near the hacienda described experiences that still unsettle him to this day, especially involving the main staircase, where he would hear slow, deliberate footsteps climbing upward, step by step, as if someone was making their way to the second floor, only for the sound to suddenly stop midway, leaving nothing there when he went to check. No person, no animal, just silence, and a heavy feeling that he was no longer alone. When the investigators arrived, they carefully explored the property, documenting each room, each hallway, each corner where something might be hiding. But for hours, nothing significant happened, and despite the oppressive atmosphere and the constant sense of being watched, there was no clear evidence of movement or presence. And eventually, believing the night would end without incident, they began preparing to leave. But just as they were about to go, something changed. Watch.
Una que está aquí y que es la que se ha manifestado. Esta oración fue para ti y para todas las demás entidades que se encuentran aquí. Yo creo que es momento de retirarnos porque... ¡Ay, no mames, no mames, no mames! ¡Ven! ¡Ay, güey! ¡No mames, yo vi algo! Vamos, ven. Algo se asomó aquí. Ven, por favor, algo. Córrele. ¡Ay! No mames, ¿qué hay aquí? Córrele, Meli, ven. Ay, no mames. Es que yo aquí vi que se asomó algo, te lo juro. Ay, ¿quién anda aquí? Yo ya no sé. De verdad. No hay nada. Ay. No, vámonos ya. Vámonos con cuidado. Es momento de irnos. Con cuidado. Ay, no. Yo ya quiero salir de aquí, vámonos. Ya no podemos quedarnos más, de verdad, es el momento de irnos. Qué terrible lugar, un lugar lleno de energía, una energía muy fuerte la que está aquí encerrada y lamentablemente no podemos hacer nada. Ya hicimos una oración, vamos saliendo. Ya hicimos una oración, pero no hay nada más por hacer, porque yo vengo sin un experto.
From behind the truck, something briefly peeks out, a shape that appears and disappears too quickly to fully identify, followed by something even more disturbing, a faint voice, weak, strained and emotional, sounding almost like someone crying out for help. Some believe this could be the spirit of someone connected to the remains found on the property, possibly someone who died there and was never properly laid to rest, their presence lingering, unable to move on, trapped between worlds and trying to be heard, while others believe the rumors of buried money may be connected, that if something valuable was hidden there long ago, it may have been guarded, and whoever was responsible may never have truly left. There are also those who believe something darker may exist in places like this. Not a trapped soul, but something that imitates distress, something that calls out in human voices to lure the living closer, feeding on curiosity and fear. But until more evidence surfaces, what was hiding behind that truck, and who or what cried out into the darkness, remains a mystery. Now, in this next clip, a man named Samuel, who works at ESTE Villahermosa Hospital, captured a disturbing incident after months of staff, quietly complaining that strange and unexplainable things had been happening throughout the building. Hospitals, especially those that operate overnight, are often at the center of paranormal claims, not necessarily because of the building itself, but because of what they represent. According to Samuel, co-workers had reported hearing footsteps in empty corridors, equipment shifting when no one was present, and doors opening slightly on their own during the early hours of the morning, especially between 3 and 4 a.m., a time many refer to as the dead hour, when activity is believed to be at its peak. One night around 3:30 a.m., while working his shift, Samuel heard noises coming from the sample collection area. At first, he assumed it might be another staff member finishing late work, but when the sounds continued, he decided to investigate and record. Watch.
Compañeros, hago este video porque estaba escuchando ruidos aquí atrás. Son las 3:25 de la mañana. No veo nada. Miren. Miren. Dejen de ver eso. Se acaba de caer un bote. Se está moviendo esto. No veo nada. No hay nadie por acá. No hay nadie por acá. A la onda. Miren, se movió esto. Ahorita que venía caminando por acá. Y no veo a nadie. Miren. 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 Miren cómo se mueve eso. Para que vean que no hay nadie aquí.
Objects can be seen moving and falling off on their own. Some viewers believe the movement resembles the behavior of a child. The way the trolley shifts, the way objects are disturbed, it doesn't seem violent, but curious, almost like something small, interacting with its surroundings without understanding the consequences. But what happened next made the situation even harder to dismiss. Samuel later reviewed the hospital's security camera footage, hoping to find a logical explanation. Instead, he captured something else. Watch. If you look closely, something appears to move toward one of the wards. Moments later, a door opens, like something entered the room. It appears small, so many believe the child's speculation might just be right. But until more footage emerges, and until someone finds a clear explanation, whatever Samuel captured that night remains unexplained. In the following videos, a group of explorers set out to investigate an abandoned house that had been sitting empty for years, its broken windows and rotting walls silently holding whatever history had been left behind. They moved cautiously from room to room, documenting everything, opening doors, checking closets, and shining their flashlights into corners where the darkness seemed unusually thick. But there was one particular room they couldn't access because the door was locked. They tried the handle repeatedly, pushing, pulling, even listening closely to hear if something was moving on the other side, but it wouldn't budge. Eventually, with no way in, they gave up and left cameras behind to monitor the house while they were gone, hoping to capture evidence of whatever might be inside. This is what the camera caught. An object inside the room suddenly falls over. What makes this moment disturbing is how it was positioned. It wasn't hanging off an edge or placed somewhere unstable. It appeared balanced and undisturbed for hours, and yet it fell without any visible force acting on it. It was as if something invisible had decided to move it. More than a year passed before another investigator named Meguro, along with his partner Kawasaki, decided to return to the same abandoned house. By then, the location had developed a reputation among explorers, many refusing to enter it at all. But Meguro wanted answers. They set up night vision cameras throughout the building and made the risky decision to stay overnight inside. But the night quickly turned into something neither of them expected. Watch.
川崎くん。川崎くん。川崎くん。
目黒さん、目黒さん。
川崎くん。
Meguro tries again and again, pushing harder each time, and soon starts getting an overwhelming sensation, one he later describes as being watched from the other side. And then there's the chair, a single chair that wasn't there earlier, but at the time, what was important was opening the door. After several tense moments, the door finally opened, and Meguro later describes the moment as something he will never forget. Watch.
川崎くん。川崎くん。
People familiar with the building later came forward with disturbing claims. According to them, that particular room is believed to house an entity, one that doesn't simply haunt the space, but watches, waits, and searches for something far more disturbing. A vessel. Some believe entities tied to locations grow weaker over time unless they attach themselves to something living, something capable of carrying them beyond the place they're trapped. Meguro and Kawasaki later warned others to never enter that room again, and after seeing what happened that night, it's not hard to understand why. This next video shows Amanda Sanders, a woman who says the activity inside her home has been escalating in ways she can no longer ignore. At first, the strange things only happened occasionally, subtle enough that she could convince herself there was a logical explanation. But recently, everything changed, and the disturbances are no longer confined to the middle of the night. They're happening in broad daylight, while she's fully awake, fully aware, and unable to dismiss them. What makes this even more unsettling is her dogs. According to Amanda, her dogs have been behaving in ways she's never seen before. They refuse to enter certain rooms. They hide under the bed for hours. Sometimes, they stare into empty spaces and quietly whimper, as if reacting to something invisible standing right in front of them. Sensing something wasn't right, Amanda began recording more often, hoping to capture proof. And during one of those recordings, this happened. Watch.
Alright guys, it's me and Pops right now. It's starting to happen again. I wanted to catch it. My old man's at work. Nothing, nobody is in here. Like, what? Alright guys, I'm gonna show you. Let me see if I can get my damn. And there's no way out of my house. This is the only door. This door and my back door, which is back there. Fuck, I don't know how to get a flat, or, hold on. Guys, I'm just have to come in here and turn the light on. Okay. So I just want to find the damn light. Hold on, guys. prove no one is in here. Like, what the is going on? No one's in here, right? Shower. Open the shower and show you. Bathroom. No one's... Oh, shit. The door just slammed shut again. What was it, Tootsie? What is it, Toot Toot? Something slammed the door on you, buddy? Come here. Where you going? Okay. Anyway, this is a closet. Oh, I can't even open the door on that side. I'll leave it open. Hold on. This is my closet. Please excuse me. Vern, are you fucking with that door? Oh my god. What the f, dude? I don't know. Nothing. Like, oh, let me go back here to this closet and show you. Ain't nobody in here. That's a bunch of bags. Like, there's nothing in here. Let me open this. What the fuck? No one here, guys. Just me and Pops. What the f? And the dogs, obviously. Hey, Daisy. What's going on, crazy? Woo!
In the middle of the video, a door suddenly slams shut with force. Moments like this have left her feeling exposed in her own home, unsure whether she's being watched, followed, or something worse. In paranormal cases, escalation during daylight hours is often considered more serious because it suggests whatever is present no longer needs darkness to operate. And then there's the dogs. Many believe animals don't hide unless they feel threatened. Their instinct is survival. If they're hiding under the bed, refusing to move, it could mean they're trying to escape something they can sense but can't fight. Amanda says she's now considering blessing the home, hoping it might calm whatever is inside or remove it completely. But opinions are divided. Some believe blessing a home can help cleanse negative energy and restore peace, especially if the presence is weak or recently attached. Others warn that attempts to cleanse a space without fully understanding what's there can sometimes provoke more activity, especially if whatever is present resists being removed. There's also the unsettling possibility that the presence isn't tied to the house at all, but to Amanda herself. Until she takes the next step and shares what happens after the blessing, this remains unsolved. This next video shows a disturbing series of unexplained events experienced by a man inside his own home. Events that didn't begin suddenly, but built up slowly over time until they became impossible to ignore. It started with small things, objects not being where he left them, faint knocking sounds coming from empty rooms, and moments where his dog would suddenly stop, stare at nothing, and quietly back away like it sensed something standing there. At first, he tried to ignore it, convincing himself it was just the house settling, or his imagination playing tricks on him. But that changed the day he caught this on camera. Watch.
This is camera recording. Huh. Oh, Jesus. Dude.
The mirror that had been placed securely against the wall suddenly falls on its own, but things didn't stop there. Another time, he captured something even more direct. The door suddenly closes with force. If it wasn't wind and no one else was inside, then the question becomes unavoidable. What closed it? By this point, he was no longer brushing it off. He knew something wasn't right. Then one afternoon, shortly after arriving home, he heard loud banging noises coming from inside. Instead of ignoring it, he immediately set up his camera. Watch this.
Banging noises in here. So that's why I'm setting up the camera right now to find out, what the fuck it is. Max, shut up. Anybody here? That was up against the wall.
A shadow appears on the wall, and though he couldn't capture it on camera, the reaction of the dog is enough to know something or someone was definitely there. Still, nothing prepared him for what came next. One night while he was asleep, his phone somehow took selfies. Not one, but multiple. Watch him out.
Didn't take the picture because it was taken from the end of my bed. One of them, at least. The other one was like next to me. But also, in those pictures, the first one, sorry. In the first one, there was like another face next to my wife's face. And I was thinking maybe it was like a reflection of my face, but how in the is there going to be a reflection of my face on the pillow? Then on the other one, the other picture, I think my eyes are open. I don't know. I zoomed in. It doesn't look like my eyes are open, but it looks like something's on my eyes. And my hand looked very long. Yeah.
Some believe this could be a camera glitch, a trick of lighting or motion distortion, but others believe something far more disturbing. There's a theory in paranormal cases that entities can manipulate electronics, especially cameras and phones, to capture their presence. Some believe they can even interact with people while they sleep, appearing close enough to be captured without being seen. And if that's true, it would mean whatever is inside his home isn't just moving objects. It's getting closer, until more footage is captured, and until he finds out what's truly behind these events. One terrifying question remains. Is this something attached to the house, or something attached to him? You decide. The following clip is about a man named Daniel Thompson, who occasionally returns to stay for a few days at the family home, where he and his sister grew up. Recently, due to some accommodation issues, he's been staying there more often, and during those visits, he says he's begun noticing things in the house that he can't easily explain. According to Daniel, the strange feeling isn't entirely new. In fact, he believes something may have been present in that house since they were children. One reason he gives is his mother's unusual hobby. She has always been an avid collector, filling the house over the years with all kinds of strange antiques, dolls, puppets, and odd artifacts she picked up from flea markets, thrift stores, and estate sales. And one item in particular has always unsettled him, the dollhouse sitting in his sister's room. Daniel says that almost every time he walks past that room, he hears a faint knocking sound coming from inside. And for some reason, he's convinced the sound is coming from the dollhouse itself. Watch this. After hearing the knocking so many times, Daniel began wondering if one of the strange items his mother brought into the house years ago might have something attached to it. And considering how many eerie collectibles fill the rooms, it's not hard to see why the thought crossed his mind. In the next clip, you'll see some of the unusual items his mother has collected over the years. Take a look.
Okay, so the other thing that really creeps me out, that I do not like, but I will show you guys, is in my sister's old room, or I guess still room. Dollhouse. I don't know how to explain it. The only thing I can say that has happened with it is sometimes when I walk by, or like I go, the bathroom's back there, and I walk through and I hear like tapping coming from this room. It's like it's like yeah, it's like, I know it's coming from this room, and so I come in here and then it usually stops, except for like maybe 3 nights ago, like the tapping kept happening, and I came over and I was trying to figure out like where it was coming from, but it was coming from this dollhouse and I don't know where, and it hasn't done it since. Like, why is it so intricate? It's like, freaks me out. I'm not showing you guys this again, so take one last look. Yeah. Fuck that thing.
His mother has several old dolls, puppets, and handmade figures, some of which already look unsettling even before anything strange happens. But viewers watching the footage noticed something that Daniel didn't mention right away. Toward the end of the video, just before he says, "Freaks me out," many people claim they can hear what sounds like the faint voice of a young girl somewhere in the background. And then there were the comments about one particular doll, the red one in the beginning of the clip. Several viewers said the doll had what they described as bad juju written all over it, with others pointing out the puppet beside it also looked unusually sinister. But according to Daniel, those aren't even the creepiest dolls in the house. There was one they absolutely couldn't stand while growing up. Watch this. If you look closely at the doll wearing the blue shirt and purple pants, something odd happens. For a brief moment, its eyes appear to blink. It's subtle, but once you notice it, it's difficult to unsee. Still, the most convincing moment for Daniel came after he decided to move the dollhouse out of the room. Almost immediately, the knocking sound stopped. For a while, the house became completely quiet again. But then something else happened. The knocking started again, in the room where he had moved the dollhouse, and that alone was enough to make him uneasy. Eventually, Daniel decided to spend a night at a friend's house, just to get away from the place for a while. But while he was there, his phone rang. It was his mother asking if he was back home trying to scare her. Confused, he told her he was still at his friend's place, so she sent him a video recorded by the living room security camera. Watch this. In the footage, the living room appears completely empty, but after a few seconds, faint footsteps can be heard moving through the house. At first, she thought Daniel might be playing some kind of prank, but after confirming he wasn't home at all, the situation suddenly felt a lot more serious. For the first time, she started wondering if something else might actually be moving through the house, and if the sounds really were coming from whatever was inside that dollhouse, then moving it may not have solved the problem. It might have just moved the problem somewhere else. Until more updates come from Daniel and his family, all anyone can do for now is hope whatever is happening there doesn't get worse. In this next video, a team of paranormal investigators return to the Wheelhouse in London, a historic building dating all the way back to 1885. Today the building operates as a pottery business, but according to local stories and previous investigations, the place may hold more than just clay and pottery wheels. During an earlier investigation, the team believed they had captured evidence suggesting a female spirit might be connected to the building, possibly dating back to the time of World War II. Wanting to learn more about who, or what, might still be present there, they decided to return for another night of investigation. Watch this.
The lady that wanders here that leaves the smell of a fragrance, a perfume. What was that, Phil? I heard knocking. Did you hear knocking?
I don't know.
As soon as I mentioned the lady.
While Phil, one of the investigators, is speaking about World War II and the history surrounding the area, something unusual happens. In the background, a faint whisper can be heard, quiet, but distinct enough that several viewers immediately noticed it. Listen closely.
Until after the war, when they decided that they were going to go back to what they knew best, and that was shop fitting. Now, one of the directors was a chap called George.
Hold on, Phil.
Until after the war, when they decided that they were going to go back to what they knew best, and that was shop fitting. Now, one of the directors was a chap called George.
Hold on, Phil.
In this part of the recording, a voice can be heard saying something that sounds like, "The Yankees are here." The phrase immediately caught the team's attention, because during World War II, American soldiers, often referred to as Yankees, were stationed throughout parts of the United Kingdom. Some viewers believe the voice could be connected to someone who lived through that time, perhaps replaying a moment from the past when American troops arrived in the area. Trying to get more answers, the investigators continue attempting to communicate with whatever might be present in the building, and that's when this happens.
Well, last time we were here, this particular area we're sat in now, we heard quite a few noises. We heard the china being moved or knocked against. Could you do that again, perhaps on... What's that?
It's the REM pod going into alarm. The temperature's gone into alarm.
Oh, I heard a chink of something as well.
Yeah, I did. Somewhere behind you on the pottery again, Phil?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
Could you do that again for me, please?
Suddenly, the REM pod, a device used by investigators to detect electromagnetic disturbances, goes into alarm. According to the team, the device reacted at the same moment they felt a sudden drop in temperature in the room. Then, almost immediately afterward, a sharp sound echoes through the building, like a piece of pottery being struck or knocked over somewhere nearby. The investigators pause, waiting to see if anything else will happen, and before long, they hear something else. Watch this.
Do you want me to talk to you about the war, as you asked? If you do, could you knock maybe the pottery again, or bang on the table?
Someone's walking.
I heard something then.
Just heard footsteps.
You can hear clear footsteps, as though someone is walking through the building. What makes the moment unsettling is that the investigators confirm they are completely alone inside the space. No other staff, no customers, no one else who could be walking around the pottery workshop. Yet the footsteps sound deliberate, like someone slowly moving across the floor nearby. Old buildings often carry strange sounds, shifting wood, echoing pipes, distant vibrations traveling through the structure. But moments like this still leave people wondering if something else might still be moving through places, long after the people who once lived there are gone. So was it echoes from the past, or a spirit tied to the building's wartime history? You decide. Now in this next video, a woman named Genevieve hears something that catches her attention late in the evening. From another room, she can hear her young daughter talking, not just babbling or playing, but clearly speaking as if she's having a conversation with someone. Curious and a little confused, Genevieve calls out to her daughter, asking who she's talking to. A moment later, the little girl begins walking out of the dark room toward her mother. But as she steps out, something else appears in the footage. Watch closely.
Lorelei, come here. Lorelei, who are you playing with? What are you doing?
At first glance, many people's first reaction is probably the same, a shadow. But when viewers started looking closer, several details made the situation far more unsettling. For one thing, the room behind the child is almost completely dark. There's no obvious light source inside the room that could project a shadow that clearly across the space. Yet the dark figure seems to move independently from the girl herself. And if you slow the footage down, the shape doesn't match her body. The child is only wearing a diaper and a small t-shirt, but the figure behind her appears to have something hanging behind its legs, almost like a robe or long piece of fabric trailing downward. Even stranger is the way it moves. Instead of stretching or bending like a normal shadow would, when projected onto a wall or floor, the shape walks upright, moving through the middle of the room as if it has depth, almost like a three-dimensional figure rather than a flat shadow. Some viewers also pointed out something else that's hard to ignore. The dark figure appears to move before the child moves. Normally, a shadow reacts to the movement of the person creating it. It follows their motion, delayed only by fractions of a second. But in this case, the dark form seems to step forward slightly ahead of the girl. Another strange detail is where it appears in the frame. Shadows usually need a surface to be projected onto, a wall, a floor, or another object. But this figure seems to pass across open space in the middle of the room before fading away, almost like something briefly walking beside the child. If Genevieve's daughter really was talking to someone in that dark room, maybe the camera briefly captured who or what she was talking to. But I'll leave you to be the judge on this one. The following video revolves around something that, at first glance, sounds impossible. A phone that keeps ringing even though it has no power connected to it. The phone has been sitting inside the house for years. An old landline model that the family kept mostly as a decoration after it stopped working. But recently, it started doing something strange. Watch this.
This haunted phone rings without power.
Out of nowhere, the phone begins ringing. Naturally, the first reaction was to pick it up and see who might be calling. But every time someone answered it, there was nothing on the other end of the line. No voice, no static, no sound at all, just silence. And the strange part is that the phone isn't even connected to an active power source. When the clip was first shared, many viewers were quick to offer a simple explanation. Some said it might be a recurring electrical spark somewhere in the wiring of the house, or perhaps leftover electricity briefly triggering the ringer. Wanting to rule that out, the owners actually opened the phone to inspect it, but inside, there was nothing that could realistically hold power long enough to make the phone ring repeatedly. No battery, no capacitor, large enough to store energy for more than a few seconds. And this wasn't a modern device either. The phone had reportedly been in the house since the 1970s. That detail made the situation even more unsettling for some viewers. Older landline phones are mechanical in nature, meaning the ringing sound usually requires a proper electrical signal traveling through the phone line. Without that signal, the bell simply shouldn't ring, which led some people to speculate about another possibility. Ringing phones are sometimes linked to what investigators call phantom calls, strange events where disconnected phones ring or pick up signals that can't easily be traced. Of course, there are still many possible explanations, from unusual wiring in the walls to interference coming from nearby lines. But when a phone that shouldn't have power suddenly starts ringing in the middle of a quiet house, it's hard not to wonder who, or what, might be trying to call. And the strangest part? Even after all the attempts to answer it, no one has ever been on the other end of the line. Now in this next video, a man named Nate, someone already recognized for the strange activity that has been happening inside his home, records something unsettling while visiting a cemetery for work. At first it was faint, like something shifting or moving and somewhere between the rows of graves. Since he knew he was the only person there at the time, the noises immediately put him on edge. Watch this.
I heard you over there. I heard you moving around. Let me know you're here. Close that door. Yes, this is your cemetery, I know. I'm just trying to keep it nice for you. Keep it maintained and looking nice, out of respect. I'm not trying to So I'm hearing shuffling now. It sounded like it was behind the cement mixer. Fast footsteps or something that was back there. Clearly you can see there's nothing back there. So, not sure what that was. Gotta reach behind there. Alright then. That. A rainy day up here. Gotta love it. I swear, anytime the weather is like this, weird shit happens. So let's hope today is not one of those days. There's that thing. Holy f***. Yeah, that's just right? Hell no.
The area around him seems quiet, but the sounds continue, almost like someone slowly moving nearby while staying just out of sight. Nate tries to brush it off and continues filming, but the uneasy feeling never really leaves. Later in the video, after it gets darker, something even more disturbing appears. If you look closely beside the window, there's a faint figure standing there. It's difficult to make out clearly, but the shape is just visible enough to resemble someone watching from the side. And there's another detail many viewers didn't notice the first time. Earlier in the video, before the scene near the window, a shadowy figure can be seen standing outside in the background. The shape is dark and still, blending into the surroundings, which is probably why it's so easy to miss at first. After seeing the footage, many viewers started connecting it to the strange experiences Nate has already shared from his home. The unexplained scratches he sometimes wakes up with, objects being thrown across rooms, and sharp items suddenly moving without explanation. Because of that, some people began wondering if whatever has been causing those disturbances might not be limited to his house. Maybe it followed him, or worse, maybe it started somewhere else entirely. Cemeteries have long been associated with stories of restless spirits and lingering energy, places where the line between the living and the dead is often believed to be thinner than usual. So the question many people asked after watching the video was simple. Did Nate unknowingly bring something back with him from the cemetery that night? Or had it already been with him long before he ever stepped foot there? Again, I'll leave you to be the judge. The following video was captured by a man who had already grown used to being woken up in the middle of the night by things he couldn't explain, to the point where it had become a routine, something he no longer questioned immediately, but instead documented, almost as if he knew that whatever was happening would eventually show itself on camera. Before this night, he had been dealing with faint knocks at odd hours, objects shifting slightly out of place, and moments where he would wake up feeling like someone had just been standing over him, watching, only for the room to be completely empty when he fully opened his eyes. Over time, it became harder to ignore, especially when he started hearing low sounds at night, scratching, dragging, and at times something that almost resembled breathing, close enough to feel real, but never visible long enough to confirm. So when it happened again that night, when a loud sound suddenly pulled him out of sleep, he reached for his phone, hoping to finally catch something clear enough to explain it all. What he captured instead only made things worse. Watch. The door creaks open first, slow and deliberate, with no one near it. Then a small black creature lunges onto the bed directly at him, letting out a shriek that doesn't sound like anything domestic, followed by a deep growl. Many would immediately label something like this as a demonic presence, and in many reported cases, it's said that when something like this begins to feel comfortable within a space, when it's no longer hiding or limiting itself to small signs, it can escalate even further, sometimes attempting to influence or even possess the person living there. In this next clip, a man in Chihuahua, Mexico, had been running a studio space he'd been using for work. A cluttered, horror-decorated room filled with vintage masks, a porcelain doll, and a large, ornate mirror. He'd already lost a week's worth of security footage because the cloud trial on his camera system expired before he could save anything locally. Then, on a Tuesday night, while he was away recovering from an eye injury, his security camera triggered a movement alert at 9:10 p.m. He ignored it at first. It wasn't until Thursday that he finally came back to check. and that's when things got harder to dismiss. Watch. The security camera, the kind set to tracking mode, begins panning slowly across the empty room on its own, as if following something invisible. Then, a door that was slightly ajar in the background swings fully shut with deliberate, unhurried force. The doll by your right also moved without anyone in sight touching it. When the man arrives with his handheld camera that same night, he walks to a corner of the floor near the desk, a floor he says he'd left spotless, and points the light downward. Have a look.
Fijé un poco. Yo había dejado limpio. Y hay unas huellas ahí. Esos días hizo bastante frío, hizo mucho frío. Bueno, para que alguien anduviera descalzo, lo dudo mucho. Para la gente de aquí de Chihuahua sabe que no se puede andar uno descalzo en la calle. Y luego miren, yo calzo del 9. Ese pie es enorme, está muy, muy, muy grande. No es mi pie. O sea, la verdad sí está muy, muy grande el pie. Y le digo, oí pasos.
A large, dirty, barefoot print on the floor. He holds his own shoe next to it for comparison. He wears a size 9, and the print is noticeably bigger, both in length and width. There was no sign of forced entry, so from that point on, the debate around what's causing all of this only intensified. Some people are convinced the activity is tied to a large mirror he brought into the studio. According to him, the strange occurrences began almost immediately after the mirror arrived. In paranormal belief, mirrors are often considered portals, reflective surfaces believed to thin the boundary between spaces. Many cultures warn that mirrors can act as gateways, allowing entities to observe, attach, or even pass through. If that's the case here, it could explain the sense of being watched, the movement being tracked, and the idea that something is present without fully manifesting. But others believe the mirror isn't the source, it's the doll. Dolls act as vessels, not necessarily haunted at first, but capable of housing or attracting a presence over time. The fact that the doll moves during the footage and that disturbances seem more physical, doors slamming, objects shifting, leads many to think the doll is what's anchoring whatever is inside that studio. And then there are those who think it isn't one or the other, but both. Some believe the mirror may have opened the door, and the doll became the place where whatever came through decided to stay. Until more updates are shared, this remains unsolved. Now in this next clip, a couple decides to do something many people would strongly advise against. Sitting together in a darkened room, candles flickering around them as they place their hands on a Ouija board and ask whatever might be listening to make itself known. Watch. Before this moment, they had already experienced strange activity in their old apartment, which was located right next to a hospital, a detail that, for many people, immediately raises questions, because places like that are often associated with intense emotional energy, loss, and unresolved moments that some believe can linger. They reported hearing unexplained sounds, feeling watched, and noticing subtle disturbances they couldn't explain. which led them to wonder if something might have attached itself to them. So when they moved into their new place, instead of leaving it behind, they made a decision that would change everything, using the Ouija board to find out if whatever they had experienced before had followed them into this new home. Watch.
Anybody there? Is anybody there? Can you give us a sign? Can you give us a sign? God. Oh my God. There's no way. There's no way. Dude, there's nobody in here. There's nobody in here. What is going on? Oh.
Some viewers believe this confirms their fear, that something from their old apartment may have stayed with them, something that didn't leave when they moved. But others argue something far more unsettling, that it wasn't about something following them at all, but about what they may have invited in at that exact moment by choosing to use the board. And that's where the situation takes a more serious turn. Because people familiar with how these sessions are traditionally handled were quick to point out a critical mistake, something that might seem small but carries heavy implications in paranormal belief. The fact that they removed their hands from the planchette without properly closing the session or saying goodbye. According to those beliefs, that final step isn't optional. It's meant to close whatever line of communication has been opened by skipping it. Many believe they didn't just stop the session, they left it unfinished, leaving what some describe as an open doorway, something that doesn't simply close on its own. On another day, they decided to do it again.
Is anybody there? Is anybody there? No.
Jacob, we have to get out. We have to get out.
Moments like this are often used as examples when people talk about the risks tied to using a Ouija board, not because of what is guaranteed to happen, but because of what can happen when boundaries aren't understood or respected. The idea isn't just that something might respond, but that once that line is opened, it may not always be clear what exactly is responding, or whether it intends to leave when you're done. And that's the part many people overlook, because it's not always about whether something followed them from before. Sometimes it's about what they may have invited in, without fully understanding how to send it back. This next video was recorded by a man who has been documenting what he describes as an increasingly aggressive haunting inside his home. And by the time this footage begins, he's already terrified before he even reaches the bottom of the stairs. It started with smaller disturbances, noises in the night, his dog refusing to behave normally downstairs, a growing sense that whatever was in the house was no longer passive. He blames the spirits for recent bad luck in his life, including a car accident, and on this particular night, he grabs his phone and heads downstairs because something has set his dog off again. Watch.
Nouvelle vidéo, on entend du bruit, mon chien s'est énervé d'un coup. Devient catastrophique. Les esprits deviennent agressifs. Oui, j'arrive, ma fille. Et pire, c'est qu'il me porte la poisse. Là, il y a 2 jours, les gendarmes m'ont rentré dans la voiture. Elle était devant chez moi, mais la voiture est épave. Beaucoup de chance. Beaucoup de chance. Et l'excuse, c'est le café avait une poussière dans l'œil. Vous y croyez, vous? Ben, moi, malheureusement. Oh putain, c'est quoi ce bordel encore, putain. Ça fait que ça, c'est incroyable. On essaie de trouver des solutions, mais il n'y a rien qui marche. Cherche, mon chien, cherche. Il y a quelque chose? Oh putain. Ça devient bizarre. What the... Oh putain, ça m'a piqué. Ah. Mais c'est quoi ce délire? C'est quoi ce délire, putain de merde? Oh là là. Putain, c'est quoi ce délire? Putain de merde. Ça devient n'importe quoi ce baraque. Si vous avez des idées, des conseils. Ah, des idées, des conseils, je suis preneur. Honnêtement, ça. Oh putain, c'était quoi ça? Oh fuck off. Oh sa mère. C'était quoi ça, putain? C'était quoi cette merde? Si. Ah, putain. Ah, fille, qu'est-ce qui t'arrive? Non. Non. Mais non. C'est quoi ce délire? Mais c'est quoi ce délire, putain de ça? C'est quoi ce what sa mère? Putain. Sa mère.
He claims to feel fingers pressing along his spine, then shouts out in pain as the camera lurches violently, as if something struck him. Then it got worse. The television switches on by itself, blasting loud, dramatic music into the dark room, and his dog stands near the glass door, with her tail tucked, too frightened to move. He uses the remote to shut it off, but within minutes, it turns back on, this time changing channels and raising its own volume, while the remote sits on the floor in front of it. Some viewers immediately pointed to poltergeist activity, a term used to describe a type of disturbance associated with physical force and object manipulation rather than a simple haunting. But the man's response to all of this is what makes the second clip even more unsettling, because rather than leave, he keeps confronting it. Watch.
Prochaine vidéo, j'ai décidé de me battre contre cette chose malveillante.
Horrible. Ça fait un moment que j'ai pas fait de vidéo, mais là ça empire. De jour en jour. Des marques, des griffes. C'est insupportable. Putain. Ah, c'est toi qui me fais peur. Alors, il y a quelqu'un? Putain, c'est insupportable. Putain. Putain, c'est quoi cette merde encore? Non, mais c'est pas possible.
He descends the same staircase again, speaking in a tense, hushed voice, saying things are getting worse day by day. Marks, scratches, unbearable. His dog startles him in the dark. Then a loud bang erupts from somewhere off camera. The camera whips sideways, and from inside a closed toy chest, a child's musical melody begins playing on its own. He opens the lid. The music cuts off the moment he slams it shut. For some viewers, a toy activating inside a sealed chest with no one near it lands differently than anything electronic. It feels deliberate, like something announcing itself. And if that's true, the question isn't whether it's still down there, it's whether it ever planned to stop. Now in this next clip, a man is riding his motorcycle alone down a dark, isolated road at night, heading to a wedding, when something on the roadside stops him cold. At that hour, there's usually nothing to see except the road ahead, so when something appears in the distance, it immediately stands out. Watch.
Fuck, man. fuck, bastard! Oh shit! Oh shit, man! Oh shit, man! Oh!
As his headlight stretches forward, it catches the outline of a figure walking along the road, tall, pale, and unnaturally still in the way it carries itself, not reacting to the approaching motorcycle, not stepping aside, just continuing forward, like it doesn't even acknowledge him being there. And that's where it starts to feel wrong. Some viewers believe what he encountered could have been a ghost, the kind often described in roadside sightings, figures that appear briefly, usually at night, sometimes tied to past accidents or tragedies, known to show up without warning and disappear just as quickly, leaving the person who saw them questioning what they just experienced. So if you were riding down that same road, alone, and that figure appeared in your headlights, would you slow down and try to understand what you're looking at? Or would you keep going and not look back? Now, in this next video, a man claims that every single night when he returns to his home, something is already there waiting for him, and he decides to prove it. The building itself looks abandoned in stretches, a barrack-style structure at the end of a dark gravel path, lit only by a single street lamp overhead. One night, he hears footsteps like someone running around the house. Shortly after, this happens.
So I'm gonna set my camera here. I can watch down the hallway.
Some viewers believe this kind of activity points directly to a poltergeist, but until more updates are shared, this remains unsolved.